I never thought I'd find myself telling this story. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to relive it. There are moments in life you want to lock away forever, throw the key into the deepest part of the ocean, and hope the waves forget. But pain doesn't work like that. It floats. It resurfaces. And sometimes the only way to deal with it is to speak it out loud. My name is Emily Harrison. I was 30 years old when everything unraveled. I lived in Seattle, Washington, a city that somehow always felt too gray, too wet, but also too familiar to leave. I was a public school teacher, 3rd grade, at a small elementary school in West Seattle. I loved my students like they were my own kids. At that time, I was pregnant with my first actual child, our daughter. Jason, my husband, was 33. He worked in tech, like almost every other guy in the city. Senior software engineer at a startup that promised the world and paid in stock options. We met in college, University of Washington, sophomore year. He was funny, sharp, and disarmingly gentle. We dated for 5 years, married for 3. From the outside, we looked like one of those couples you might see at brunch on a Sunday. Matching coffee cups, inside jokes, a shared Spotify playlist. But people don't see cracks through filters. When I got pregnant, we were both thrilled. Jason even cried at the first ultrasound, something I never expected. He kissed my belly every night, whispered stories to it, talked about building the crib himself. He came to appointments, carried grocery bags, told me I was glowing even when I knew I looked like a balloon. But then, something shifted. It started small. I was 7 months in when Jason began coming home late from work. I didn't think much of it. Meetings, he'd say. Investors, late sprints. I nodded, trusted him. I mean, what else could I do? I was home on maternity leave early because of high blood pressure. My world shrank to our apartment, prenatal vitamins, and baby name books. His world stayed out there, free, busy, alive. I remember the first night I really felt something was off. It was a Tuesday. I'd made baked salmon with dill, his favorite. He came home around 9, said he'd eaten already with the team. I laughed it off, but I noticed the way he smelled. Cologne I didn't recognize, not the kind he wore. It wasn't even subtle. It was floral, almost sweet. Not his scent. New deodorant? I asked casually. He looked up from his phone, barely blinking. Yeah, ran out of the usual. I nodded. Stupid me. The next few weeks were worse. Jason was either on his phone or avoiding it altogether. He kept it face down all the time. Notifications turned off. He started showering as soon as he got home, even before saying hi to me. I didn't want to be the paranoid pregnant wife, but my gut, it was screaming. And it wasn't the baby. Then came the night I went into labor. It was around 2 in the morning when the contractions started. They were sharp, unmistakable. I had been having Braxton Hicks for weeks, but this was different. This was the real thing. I nudged Jason awake. He groaned, turned over, then realized what was happening and shot up like a bolt. Oh, God, okay, backing bag? He asked, rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. In the hallway closet. He scrambled. We got into the car and drove through empty Seattle streets, the wet pavement glowing under streetlights. He held my hand the whole way, kept saying, "You're doing amazing, Em." Just a bit longer. I remember thinking, maybe I had been wrong. Maybe the distance I'd felt wasn't another woman. It was stress, fear of becoming a dad. I wanted to believe that. We got to Swedish Medical Center and they admitted me right away. I was dilated to 6 centimeters. The pain came in waves. I was crying, sweating, squeezing his hand so hard my nails left marks. He stayed by my side for a few hours. Then at some point he stood up and said, "I'm just going to grab some coffee from the lobby. You want anything?" I shook my head, eyes shut, barely able to respond. He left. He was gone for nearly 45 minutes. When he came back, he looked different, like he'd stepped out of a different world. His shirt was a little untucked.
His hair wasn't how it was when he left, but I was too out of it to process. My body was screaming. I was giving birth to our daughter, and I had to focus. And then she came. At 7:43 a.m., after nearly 5 hours of labor, our daughter Ava Rose Harrison was born. She was 6 pounds, 11 ounces. Jason cut the cord, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "She's perfect." I cried, not just from the birth, but from the overwhelming hope that this baby would fix whatever was broken between us. For the next 2 days in the hospital, Jason was attentive. He held Ava constantly, took photos, called his mom, updated Instagram, but I noticed he was always texting someone. He'd turn his screen away from me, step into the hallway when he took calls. On the third night, when he'd gone home to feed the cat, I finally did something I told myself I wouldn't. I opened his iPad. His messages were synced, and there she was. Her name was Clara. A long thread of texts, all sent while I was in labor. "Clara, are you okay? That must be weird being there while she's giving birth." Jason, "Yeah, it's surreal. I can't believe this is happening while all I want is to be with you." Clara, "I miss you so much. Last night was incredible." Jason, "Same. I didn't want to leave." I remember the sound that came out of me wasn't human. It was raw, animal. My chest felt like it was being crushed. I was in a sterile hospital room with my newborn in a bassinet beside me, and I was reading the collapse of my marriage in real time. He came back around midnight. I didn't say a word, just stared at him. He didn't notice. He was tired, distracted. I let it go. For the moment. The next morning, I checked myself and Ava out. I told the nurses Jason would meet us at the curb. I called an Uber instead. I didn't speak to him until 2 days later. When I confronted him, he didn't even try to deny it. He just sat there, hunched on the couch, rubbing his temples. "It just happened," he muttered. "We connected. I was confused." "You were confused while I was pushing a human out of my body?" I snapped. Silence. That was the beginning of the end. Jason moved into the guest room. Not because I asked him to, he just did. There was a heaviness in the apartment, like all the air had thickened and every word between us was strained. We didn't fight, we didn't scream, we just stopped talking. And somehow that silence hurt more than yelling ever could. He said one afternoon, "I think I should move out for a bit. You don't need space, you need her." He didn't deny it. So he packed and left. That night. And I cried in the dark while Ava slept soundly beside me. After that night, everything changed. Jason moved into the guest room. Not because I asked him to, he just did. There was a heaviness in the apartment, like all the air had thickened, and every word between us was strained. We didn't fight, we didn't scream, we just stopped talking. And somehow that silence hurt more than yelling ever could. I spent most of my days with Ava. She was beautiful. Soft curls, wide blue eyes, the tiniest fingers. She smelled like new beginnings. I'd sit for hours just holding her, rocking back and forth, whispering little promises into her ear. "I'll never leave you. I'll never lie to you. I'll never make you feel small." Jason, meanwhile, was slipping further away. He still did the motions, bottle feeding, diaper changes, but he wasn't there. His eyes were always somewhere else. I knew where. Clara. He thought I didn't notice the late-night texting, the secretive smiles, the quiet moments in the kitchen when he'd sneak off with his phone. But I saw everything. And what hurt most wasn't the cheating, it was the cowardice, the refusal to end it cleanly, to either fight for us or let me go. One afternoon, Ava was napping and I was folding laundry when Jason walked in, sat on the armrest of the couch and said, "I think I should move out for a bit." I didn't even look up. For a bit?
He sighed. Just to think, to clear my head. I need space. No, I said, still folding a baby onesie. You don't need space. You need her. He didn't deny it, just stared at the floor, ashamed. Or maybe annoyed he'd been found out. I didn't know anymore. So, he packed 2 duffel bags and left that night. Said he was crashing with a friend. I didn't ask which one. The first night alone was brutal. Every creak in the apartment felt louder. Ava woke up 3 times. I cried in the dark, muffling the sound with a pillow. I wasn't crying over losing him. I was mourning the death of who I thought he was. Weeks passed, then months. Jason came around to see Ava every few days. He was civil, polite, almost robotic. We didn't discuss the affair. I didn't ask if he was still with her. But I knew. I could see it in the way he looked at his phone before walking in, the way he left after just an hour. One night in November, he showed up early, brought Ava a stuffed giraffe, and lingered longer than usual. He looked tired. I am tired. He paused. You're doing great with her. I mean it. I nodded. Thanks. He looked like he wanted to say something else. Maybe to apologize, maybe to rewind. But he didn't, and I didn't ask him to. Instead, I said, I'm filing for divorce next week. He blinked. You are? Yes. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. And just like that, it was decided.
The paperwork didn't take long. Washington's no-fault divorce laws made it surprisingly clean, at least on the surface. I filed. He didn't contest. No screaming matches, no lawyers with sharp tongues, just signatures on cold paper and an invisible knife through the middle of what used to be our life. We agreed on joint custody. Ava would spend weekdays with me, weekends with him. At first, I didn't think it'd be that hard. I mean, she was just a baby. But the first Friday he came to pick her up, I cried for 2 hours after the door closed. Not because I missed him, because I missed having her under the same roof, even just for a night. Every hour she was gone felt like I was holding my breath. Jason, to his credit, never missed a visit. He showed up on time, brought her back clean and smiling. But I noticed things. A new bracelet on her wrist. A different kind of baby shampoo in her hair. A soft lavender scent I didn't buy. She was too young to speak, but my gut told me Clara was there. Maybe not every weekend, but enough. One Sunday, when he brought Ava back, she had a small scratch on her cheek. I asked what happened, and he said, she bumped into the edge of a coffee table. Nothing serious. I stared at him. Your coffee table is round. He flinched. Just a second. But it was enough. That night, I sat in my bed staring at the ceiling for hours. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't angry in the same way anymore. I was protective, furious that someone who played side piece to my husband was now playing stepmom to my child. But I didn't confront him. Not then. Not yet. Instead, I poured everything into Ava and into getting my life back. I went back to teaching part-time. My coworkers were kind. They never asked too many questions. Some gave me that pity look, the kind people give when they don't know how to help. I hated that look more than anything. I started therapy. At first, I sat in silence for half the session, arms crossed, waiting for the therapist to fix me. But eventually, the dam broke. I talked. About Jason, about Clara, about the hospital, about how I hated myself for not leaving sooner, for ignoring the signs, for wanting to believe in a man who didn't believe in me. One night, around 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a message on Facebook. It was from Clara. It simply read, I'm sorry. I never meant for things to go this way. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. I wanted her to know I saw it, that I wasn't angry, not in the way she thought.
I wasn't going to scream, wasn't going to curse. I was done spending energy on people who didn't deserve it. Jason called a few days later, said he was thinking about moving out of state. Clara had gotten a job offer in Portland, and they were considering relocating. He wanted to know what I thought about Ava doing long weekends there instead of just 2 days. No, I said. He was quiet. Emmy, I'm not taking her away. I just want... No, I repeated. You want to start fresh? Fine, but not at the cost of her stability. To my surprise, he didn't argue. He said he'd stay. And that was that.
Life after that didn't suddenly become beautiful. There were no grand turning points, no cinematic rebirths, just small, quiet days that didn't hurt as much as the one before. I started jogging in the mornings. Nothing crazy, just laps around Green Lake with a stroller. The cold air helped me breathe. Ava loved the ducks. She'd giggle every time one waddled too close. I began to rediscover the version of myself I'd lost in the haze of betrayal. The woman who used to laugh freely, who used to dance while folding laundry, who didn't walk on eggshells in her own home. One afternoon, I was waiting in line at a coffee shop when someone behind me said, "Emily?" I turned, and for a second, I didn't recognize him. Liam Hayes. We'd gone to college together. He'd been pre-law, always with a textbook in hand and headphones on. We hadn't spoken since graduation. Now, here he was. Same warm smile, a little more scruff, and a baby carrier strapped to his chest. We talked about old times, about parenting, about how strange it was that we were both single and raising babies in our 30s. Turned out his wife had left a year after their son was born. No cheating, just disconnection. We ended up sitting outside, talking until the babies woke up. It was the first time I laughed with a man in over a year. Not the polite kind, the real kind, the belly laugh that makes your eyes water. I didn't realize how much I missed that. We exchanged numbers, and for weeks after, we texted. Nothing romantic, just two tired parents sharing memes about sleep deprivation and diaper explosions. It was innocent. It was kind. It was safe. Jason didn't like it. He found out about Liam when he came to pick up Ava and saw his name pop up on my phone. He didn't say anything right away, just glanced at the screen, then at me, and narrowed his eyes. "New friend?" he asked. "Yes," I replied, not offering more. He scoffed. "Guess it didn't take you long." I turned to face him, dead in the eye. "You don't get to be jealous. You don't even get to be curious." He opened his mouth, closed it again, and walked out. A few days later, I got a message from him. "I'm sorry. For everything. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that." I didn't reply. Instead, I took Ava to the zoo that weekend. Liam and his son Ezra came along. Watching them toddle side by side, feeding goats and squealing at flamingos, I realized something. I wasn't broken anymore. I was bruised, yes, but I was healing. Not because of a man, not because of Liam, but because I had finally let go of the version of myself that clung to someone who had let me bleed alone.
I wasn't sure when it shifted, but one day I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. Liam and I stayed in each other's orbit. We didn't force anything. There were no labels, no declarations, just comfort, soft presence. Someone to text when Ava had her first real fever. Someone to call when I couldn't open a jar. We were just there. One night, after we put the kids to sleep at his place, we ended up on his back porch. It was cold, but I didn't care. The sky was clear. He handed me a blanket, and we sat in silence for a while, sipping wine. "I used to think love was this big thing," I said suddenly. "Loud, messy, consuming." He looked at me. And now? Now I think love is quiet. It doesn't demand. It just shows up. He didn't say anything, but he reached over, gently took my hand in his. Not tightly, just enough. That night, he didn't kiss me, and I didn't want him to. It was enough just to feel safe. Meanwhile, Jason started fading into the background of my life. He still saw Ava. He still sent the occasional update, but his texts grew fewer, shorter, less curious about me, more about logistics. I preferred it that way. One afternoon in spring, he asked if we could meet for coffee, without Ava. I was hesitant, but curious. We met at a quiet spot near Capitol Hill. He looked older, like the weight of everything had finally caught up to him. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said, sipping his drink. "For what?" "For not making me into a monster. For letting me be in Ava's life. For not destroying me even when I probably deserved it." I shrugged. "I wasn't doing it for you. I was doing it for her." He nodded. "Clara and I broke up." I raised an eyebrow. "Sorry to hear that." He half smiled. "No, you're not." He was right. I wasn't. But I didn't feel vindicated either. I just felt neutral. Like I was watching someone else's story now, not living inside it. We parted with a simple handshake. No tears, no drama, just closure. Later that night, I tucked Ava into bed. She was 2 now, all curls and questions and endless energy. As I watched her sleep, I thought about everything we'd been through, everything I'd endured to bring her into the world and keep her safe inside it. And I knew, in my bones, that I had already won. Not because I found someone new, not because Jason lost what he chased, but because I refused to stay broken. I chose peace over punishment. And that was the real victory. It's been 3 years now. 3 years since I gave birth. Since the betrayal. Since the walls caved in and I had to crawl out, brick by brick, with a baby in one arm and my dignity in the other. Ava's in preschool now. She loves to paint, mostly with her hands. Our fridge is covered in tiny, colorful masterpieces, mostly flowers and suns with smiling faces. Every morning, she kisses me on the cheek and says, "Mommy, you're strong." I don't know where she picked that up. Maybe from something I said in passing. Maybe from the way I carry myself now. Liam's still around. We're not married. We're not rushing. Some days we're just 2 people who get each other's groceries and fall asleep on the couch halfway through a movie. Other days, we're everything. And that's enough. The hurt didn't magically disappear. I still flinch when I hear stories of cheating. I still get anxious when Ava spends a long weekend away. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if I'll ever fully trust again. Not just someone else, but myself. But healing isn't a straight line. It loops. It repeats. Some wounds don't scar the way you want them to. Some remain tender forever. But I'm no longer afraid of the tenderness. I've built a life that feels honest. A small apartment with chip tiles, but warm lighting. A kitchen that smells like cinnamon on Sundays. A daughter who laughs like she's never known betrayal. A circle of friends who check in when the lights are off. And most importantly, I've built a version of myself I can stand to look at in the mirror. Not because I did everything right, but because when everything went wrong, I didn't lose myself completely. If someone had told me back then, back when I was lying in that hospital bed, reading text messages I'll never unsee, that one day I'd feel joy again, I wouldn't have believed them. But here I am, still standing, still soft, still strong. And that, to me, is the real ending. Not happily ever after, just ever after. Honestly, quietly, with grace.